Good morning to everybody. Thank you to be here with us. Thank you in particular to our students. And I really would like to thank Apice, who is supporting us in this first workshop of this academic year. They are really more than supporting. They are organizing and managing this workshop. So I really do not want to spare time with my words. But let me just say that we decided to organize this workshop on the contrasting to hate speech because we consider that this is an important part of our Monnet module. As maybe you know, and I'm saying this especially for our students, the European Union in May 2016, the European Commission agreed with Facebook, Microsoft, Twitter, and YouTube a code of conduct on countering illegal hate speech. This code of conduct was also shared with Instagram, Snapchat, Dailymotion in 2018, and in 2020 also TikTok joined the code of conduct. Last year, LinkedIn also announced that they would join this code of conduct. That is a good tool, I think, to contrasting a speech, to countering illegal hate speech. As you maybe don't know, every year the European Commission produces an evaluation of the results of the code of conduct. And the last evaluation, the sixth evaluation of code of conduct that I have in front of me now, was released on October 2021. And what resulted from this sixth evaluation is that while the average of notification reviewed within 24 hours remains high, 81%, in 2021, anyway, it has decreased if we compared this capacity to react to notification of hate speech, because in 2020, the average rate was 90.4, and this means that in some way there is a little bit of decrease of the capacity of the social platform to contrast the illegal hate speech. There are only two positive news about this. The positive news is that Instagram and Twitter, they improved in their contrasting the illegal hate speech, and that also TikTok has a good rate of contrasting illegal hate speech. As maybe you can imagine, the most the social platform which receive most notification of illegal hate speech is Facebook. Facebook has received in 2021 more or less 1,800 notification of hate speech. Twitter received 1,600 notification of hate speech. The third is YouTube with just 500 hate speech notification. What is important to underline from my point of view is that after this notification, only 62.5 notification were be considered founded, and so the IT companies removed the content notified to them. This means that more or less 40% of the content notified as illegal remained online. And this brings us to the consideration that the IT companies, social platform or other IT companies, have play a big role in contrasting illegal speech, and it's just up to them to decide what is illegal and what not is illegal. Consider that among more or less 5,000 notifications, only 300 cases were reported to the police. This means that the intervention of the police is quite low. My last observation is about the grounds of hatred. And the first ground of hatred, of hate speech, is sexual orientation, 18%. The second ground is xenophobia, 18%, more or less like sexual orientation. The third one is anti-gypsies, so the hate speech against gypsies. And the fourth one is the anti-Semitism, so the hate speech against Jewish people. And there are more or less others. So it's significant that I think that it's important that we today face this important phenomenon, and I really would like not to spare more time with my consideration, and I give now the floor to Debora to manage this workshop. Good luck.
Thank you very, very much, Professor Torino. And actually, you mentioned something that is going to get very relevant to the progression of our discussion. So first of all, welcome to those who are just joined. We hope that more people will join, but my name is Debora Barletta. I'm the Vice President of Apice, and I'm the person conducting this workshop that is going to be interactive, okay? So this workshop wanted to be inserted in this course, in Jean Monnet module, because it's going to be conducted in a non-formal way, okay? So you are in university, which is like the formal education kind of institution par excellence, let's say, and we are introducing some non-formal education moments to guide you to a kind of a deeper understanding to the application of some critical thinking methodology. So what is a topic that is very relevant to your course, as Professor Torino has said. And we really thank all the teachers and professors of this Jean Monnet module, because it's an important choice to introduce this kind of thinking that is a little bit more practical, because it gives you really the opportunity to go more in depth and to kind of owning what are the topics that you are mentioning. Because the reason why we care about hate speech, it's because we see it as a menace to democracy and to the maintenance of democratic society, okay? So for us, it's a threat, okay, to the normal kind of development and conduction of our daily life in democratic society, okay? So if we put the contrast to hate speech in this framework, it also becomes more relevant to understand what are the laws, regulations, and the issues that we should care about, okay? Not just as students and professionals in this field, but also, and foremost, I would say, as citizens, okay? That live online and offline, and as we say, on life, okay? So, as I was saying, this workshop is gonna be non-formal, and to do that, it means that it's gonna rely a lot on your interactions, okay? We're not testing your knowledge, also because we know you have to go through other modules of this course. So it's not a test, even though there is Professor Torino, Professor Ricci here, nobody's gonna put your votes for this. It's just really to give you the opportunity to challenge yourselves and to understand something better. To do that, I will kindly ask you to either use your phone or to open another Windows in your browser. You can, with your phone, you can picture this QR code, or you can go to this website, www.mentis.com, and digit this code, which is 7806-5769. And I will kindly ask Bernarda to type maybe the code also in the chat, so people can copy paste it. And I will give you 1 minute to do this operation, okay? And we'll need the Mentimeter to warm up a little bit to these topics, okay? And spoiler, Professor Torino already helped us with a couple of questions when he mentioned the EU Code of Conduct, but this shows that, in the end, for us activists and practitioners, as well as for people from the formal education environment, there are certain fixed points that we all need to get acquainted with, okay? So I can see that many arts are coming. So it means that you're slowly getting the presentation, but in any case, it's also, you know, you are gonna hear my voice a lot, and I don't love my voice. Whenever you're facing problems, please take the mic and interrupt me and saying, Debora, please slow down, or, you know, can you please repeat? And use the chat, okay? To signal that, I don't know, connection went down, you're not able to do something, okay? Because in the end, this has to be useful for you. So to see if you understand how Mentimeter works, I made this very easy question. So which is, how is your energy level, okay? So the options are, do you want to stay in bed or you're super hyped to be here? And the good thing about Mentimeter, and also we take the advantage of these questions to show you that, is that it's totally anonymous, okay? I can see the numbers of replies, but I would never know if it's Bernarda answering or Professor Torino or Professor Ricci, okay? I just have the average, and, you know, actually it's very cool because if you go over that, you see how many people answered that. I love this. But, you know, there is not, even me as organizer, I have no power of seeing the names of people answering. So this is also to make you comfortable that this is a safe space and we are here to learn. So, you know, it's also to use these tools sometimes to go out of your comfort zone, to try and, you know, to go for attempts, because we are not here for judging and evaluating who is best. We just see what the group think about some things and go all together towards earning some answers, okay? So as our graph shows, we are totally in the middle. So energy level is 3. So at least it's not 2. Again, I totally understand it. And but, you know, also one of the reasons why we are using these tools is try to being more active, not having like us telling you things, but having you experiencing some stuff, okay, together. And we start also hearing your opinion on some things. Again, your is not like I would never know who is going to answer incorrectly, but also following on what Professor said about the EU Code of Conduct, okay? In your opinion, who decide what's illegal online? Who get this kind of power? Okay. So let's see. Oh, we have head-to-head. Online platforms are winning. Okay. And I think that the total of you is 7 if we don't count the organizers. So anybody wants to take the mic to express their opinion? Again, it's anonymous, so you are not forced to, but, you know, anybody wants to, maybe they know the correct answers already and you want to share it. Professors, of course, don't do it. You're okay. Nobody? Okay. The correct answer, oh, it doesn't show. Anyway. Ah, okay. Sorry, my mistake. I had to press enter. The correct answer is the courts and national competent authorities, including law enforcement authorities. Okay. That's what is on paper. Also, because again, different countries may have different regulations on things. So on paper and according also to what is specified in the EU Code of Conduct, it's courts and national competent authorities that in the end can decide what's legal and what's illegal, also because you need to bind to a system of laws, okay? But, you know, the thing of online platform is interesting. And, oh, we already answered the second. Do you agree with this system? Why? Yes, no, and I don't know. And this I would like to hear a little bit from you. Do you think it's national systems of laws, courts that should decide? Or do you think it's not fair? Or do you think it's not a very good system? What's your opinion about it? Okay, we have 3 don't know, which is okay. Anybody wants to share their opinion? Take the mic. Also possible criticism of this, okay, we're here again. This is also a learning space, so every critical view is welcome, when it's constructive criticism.
Excuse me, Debora, when we say would like to show your opinion, we have to push some button or just we have to
no, you can take the mic and talk.
Okay. Okay. So if I can I or not?
Yeah, but you can be short. Go
okay.
ahead.
I will be short. I just agree with this system because I trust in our court system. Stop.
That's a very short and good answer, and that's how it's supposed to be. But it's also good to be aware that we are in a variegated system, and there are also some governments who are not really following what is our principles that we're going to see in a minute, which is human rights principles. So very often, unfortunately, places of courts are not the best, place where rights of people are protected. But we have, at least in Europe, we have an amazing thing, which is the European Court of Human Rights, where you can go if your national court fail in protecting your rights. But again, it's limited, of course, because for instance, in the US, we don't have such a thing. But again, it also opened up the fact that maybe it's not only one body that should decide on those things, and maybe it should be a so-called multi-stakeholder approach to this kind of problem. And that's where we go to the EU Code of Conduct, okay, which is Professor Torino presented already. Okay, he said what it was about a little bit, and basically who decided to subscribe it. No, it started in 2016, but during the years, different monitoring of things, it's been other companies decided to subscribe it. Okay, last one was LinkedIn in order, TikTok as well, I think a couple of years ago. And let's see. So a set of laws, a voluntary set of rules, or a treaty, nobody, that's good. Okay, so we have a set of laws. L'accendiamo, do we? And I didn't get this. Okay, that's the right one. It's the third one. It's voluntary set of rules. I mean, this word voluntary is very important. That's why I made it a slight difference. Because IT companies, by definition, they can sign this thing. So they are committing, but they're not obliged. Okay, you can be an IT company decided not to abide to the EU Code of Conduct. And the EU doesn't have any power to force the Code of Conduct upon you. Okay, are the companies who decide voluntarily to follow these rules. That as Professor Torino said, and I'm gonna put the link in the chat so you understand. This is the wrong one. Okay, this is the official European Commission website. Okay, I'm gonna put it in the chat. Oh, we have somebody in the beginning. Okay, so you have it here. Okay. Here you have it explained. Here you go on the link, EU Code of Conduct, how it performs, the monitoring round. So every year, as Professor Torino said, and he just read the data from the last monitoring report, you have this Code of Conduct that in the end, what does it ask? Okay, it asks the company to, for instance, remove within 24 hours any content that is redeemed kind of be illegal, okay? But there are some criticism also in the reporting that Professor Torino said. And about that, I will show with you one of the organizations that was most critical about these systems, because which is the EDRI, which is the European Digital Rights. And, they do a lot of things. And they were sitting actually in a fora in which was possible to give comments on the EU Code of Conduct, and they decided to leave the discussion. It was 2016 or I don't remember if it was at the beginning or in one of the first monitoring round. So it's good to have this opinion into account. And I'm bringing you this link so you can keep it also for future discussions. It's because, for instance, in their opinion, it was giving too much power to IT companies to do or not do things. And it was kind of, as Professor Torino said, it was even more in affecting the capacity, for instance, of law enforcement system to be effective, and to have to give also citizens the perception that they should trust their system of laws, maybe not national, but at least European ones, no? If we have some, the case in which some countries are not really binding to human rights principle, okay? So for me, it's important that you know what in the end also, you know, are you know, there is criticism of this system, okay? And you may agree or not agree, but we are here to learn together. We're not taking stance in particular, but we're trying to give you the tools to make your own mind and to have those elements that should help you navigate through this sometimes complex concepts. Because very often when it comes to this kind of discussion, people in general opinion is that, okay, I don't understand, like IT company has the power to do everything, governments are powerless, the online world is kind of a wild west, there are no rules there, or this kind of misconception that don't serve anything, okay? Of course, you are becoming professional and, you know, knowledgeable about these topics, but, you know, it's always good to remember that these things have an application in practical life, okay? So this is basically what you said Code of Conduct says, but Professor Torino already spoiled, so since we are late, we can skip it. Apart from, okay, this EU of Code of Conduct, because also it's good to say this is not the only EU Code of Conduct that does exist. There are EU Code of Conducts on other issues, but this is the EU Code of Conduct on contrasting illegal hate speech, okay? But to understand, I want to ask you, how would you define illegal hate speech? There is a legal hate speech, there is an illegal hate speech, no? How do we understand illegal hate speech? What is it? You can use the box in Mentimeter. Again, it's not a test, it's not to give you grades. Also, if you cannot use the Mentimeter, please use the mic. It's just to, I'm gonna tell you the answer later, but it's to know now, before knowing the answer, what do you know about it? Or what do you think you know? Okay, so no mistakes, no gradings, don't worry. I got the power here, not professors, so no grades. But please do use the Menti, but also take the mic to tell your opinion about it, okay? Anybody that would like to try and define what's illegal hate speech?
If I can, maybe it's when someone writes or says something online on a social platform that hurts somebody else, very simply.
That's very good. And it applies also to hate speech in general, okay? To the general definition that we're now using. So who was talking? Because I could see, because I'm not in sharing screen mode, so I can thank you.
Federica.
Okay, thank you, Federica.
Maybe it can be defined as something linked to a violent dialogue. So it is when someone inspires the others to discrimination, racism, or violence.
Okay. Thank you, and who spoke? So I can thank you too. Because I don't know you, so introduce yourself. Say I'm. So for me, it's easier because when I'm sharing mode, I cannot really see, and many of you don't have the camera on, so it's a little bit difficult. So who just spoke?
Me, Andrea.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. So we also have one answer in the box. I'm gonna read it out. It is something linked to a violent dialogue. It's when someone inspires the others to discrimination, racism, or violence. This one, this last thing, the inspiration and promotion are very important concept. Thank you. The only problem I have is dialogue, because a dialogue for me cannot really be violent. This dialogue is an exchange, can be violent, but you know, dialogue is usually something positive. Instead, speech is something that is one way, usually. It's just to give something out without waiting for the receiving hand. So it's not really an exchange. So it's sometimes it's important. I mean, I come from the literary world, so maybe, you know, it's important also to distinguish dialogue and speech. That's why we talk about hate speech or violent speech, because also it tells us on the kind of interactions we are experiencing. So just wanted to give small hint on that. And we have another one, a speech that has only the task to offend on different bases the subject of the speech and or to trigger violence against the subject of the speech. Good, and the thing is only the task. It's good because it gives the dimension of the intent of the scope. For us activists, a very good way to spot if a kind of speech that maybe is not directly violent is hate speech or not, is when we see that intent of that particular speech is the diminishing, the attack, or the implication that some people should be treated differently, okay? And so when the intent, as I say, that can be spotted is really the diminishing of another person, even if they use some kind of elaborate phrasing and they're not using slurs or bad words, but if the intent of that speech is the diminishing the attack and the discrimination of people, for us it's hate speech. So intent is a very important factor for sure. But again, for me, these are definition of generic hate speech, illegal hate speech. Anybody wants to focus on the legal part, maybe? Anybody wants to take the floor?
I'm Pier Francesco, and
yes,
I was thinking about the definition our Italian course give about the offense of someone. Like in Italy, we call it diffamazione.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some guidelines, like some words you cannot say to someone, or some terms you can't use to define someone else. And I guess this is what define illegal from legal. Like illegal, there's a list of words of something you can say as an offense to someone else. And I think it's in that way, I guess, that our court has decided some definitions you cannot use against someone, and it depends on that. It depends on the way you define someone else. If there's an offense, it cannot be legal unless.
Thank you, Francesco, and you open the floor for the solutions of the dilemma. So here we start from hate speech. Hate speech for now doesn't have a universal definition, is accepted by all over the world, okay? So us as activist people, as people who want to work with hate speech, we say we have a working definition, okay? And for us, is the definition made by ECRI, the European Commission for Racism and Intolerance, that in 2015, also after the efforts of the No Hate Speech Movement campaign, did a comprehensive document on hate speech. Now it can look old, 2015 seems ages ago, but for now is one of the most comprehensive way to address hate speech, because as you can see, this is just an abstract. It's a 60 pages document that I really advise you to go and read. I forgot to put the links, but you can find the ECRI Commission 2015 hate speech. You find it in many languages. So this is very important because it mentions all the things that you said. So it talks not only about the direct speech, no, also advocacy, promotion, incitement in any form. It means also memes, videos, wherever it's, you know, it's something that is going out can be considered speech. So not only wording speech, okay, but other forms of communication, okay? And also it has a very comprehensive list of categories, okay? A little bit like what Pier Francesco said. So they are written the basis on which people cannot and mustn't be discriminated against, okay? And also it includes something very important, for instance, the denial, trivialization, justification, or condonation of crimes of genocide, crimes against humanity, or war crimes, okay? These also fall into the category of hate speech. Now, another definition we have is from 1997 from the Council of Europe, so very, very old, I think older than some of you in this room. And, you know, it came after all the anti-racism campaign. for now it looks outdated, but it's the only definition that gets the blessing of the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe, which is the higher decision-making power body in the Council of Europe environment, which I think, you know, I don't know, I'm looking at Professor, but I think you know the difference between Council of Europe and European Union. But just saying that now, luckily, after 25 years, we should have a new hate speech recommendation coming with the blessing of the Committee of Ministers that was made by a pool of experts, multi-stakeholders. So we have university professors, practitioners, and people that are really working on doing this recommendation, which, spoiler, is being done, but is waiting for this famous blessing, meaning that the 37 countries of the Council of Europe, which unfortunately are soon to become 46, all the ministers that represent their states in the Council of Europe need to agree on this definition. And when it will happen, it will be the hate speech definition that is like most recognized in the world, okay? So for us, it's very important, not because, you know, sometimes having a definition for some people, it's something diminishing because they say, okay, so it's something doesn't really strictly fall into definition. I cannot do anything about it. Yes, sometimes it can be a problem because there are those people saying, yeah, you're mentioning this, but you know, this is not mentioned in the definition wherever. So yeah, it can be limiting also when it comes to new forms of hate. But if we do not have a definition, it doesn't help us also to to have a recognition of the activities that we do. Okay, you cannot find something that you cannot even define. Okay, how can you say a contrast hate speech if you're not even able to clearly say what it is and what it's not? Okay, so at least we need to have some basics, and the things that emerge also through your answers give us that. So the intent, okay, that the person who's producing the message has, okay. And also one thing that I say to activists, also another very good thing, if the person expressing that hate speech is also gaining some kind of benefits, which is political or in their power position, it's also a very, very good indicator that we're confronting hate speech. But without taking too much time, also because I'm very aware of the time we have, the focus on illegal hate speech, and this is taken also from what is written in the EU Code of Conduct, that now you have the mentioning, so, you know, the illegal hate speech is comprehends certain form of expression of racism and xenophobia by means of criminal law and national law transposing it. And we go to what Pier Francesco said. So it refers to law. It has to be written in the laws that that thing is illegal. So there is no other way to decide it apart from that it's something mentioned in laws. Okay? That's what makes the distinction between legal and illegal. Okay, so when something is recognized by laws to be illegal, that's where the companies who subscribe to the EU of Conduct have the obligations to remove it within 24 hours, okay? And also that cuts to the problem, like, so because sometimes, for instance, in Germany, ministry complains the fact that, you know, there was not really possible to understand you know, the reporting made by the IT companies. They weren't really transparent on the numbers, on the cases. So this is one of the, let's say, of the, not the failure, but the critical point of the EU Code of Conduct, because IT companies, again, shares what they want to share. And there are a lot of loopholes, let's say, in what they want or don't want to say in terms of transparency. Also because, again, it's a voluntary thing, okay? They could decide to subscribe to it. Of course, once you subscribe, you are bound to certain things, but also the things they are bound to, they're pretty generic, okay? But I wanted to say on practical, okay, because these are things that you don't really need me to do. You can find it online, you have the links, you have everything. And you are gonna have also the link to this. We're taking like a case study, so-called, okay? So we're focusing on one of the most popular social media IT, Meta, which comprehends Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Okay. And for instance, they have the so-called community standards, which I think you all know. And oh, I haven't opened them. But anyway, I have the links. I will send it in the chat. But if I do it, you're gonna see my screen. I don't want it, but they were gonna do it later. So they have a clear understanding of what for them is not allowed. Okay, if you go to community standards, it's very long. This is just the bullet points. Okay, but if you go on Meta website, if you click on violence and incitement, it's a long explanation of everything that is comprehended in this. Okay. Old point, and these are those that are strictly not allowed. Then there is the so-called objectionable content, and hate speech falls among that, because again, there is not a clear definition. Different countries have different laws. Some countries don't even have law on hate speech, so they cannot call it illegal, but they say objectionable content, okay, which is slightly different. But just to be clear, this for Meta is never ever allowed and condoned. Okay, and why I want you to focus on this, I'm gonna interrupting the sharing, okay, before we go on. We're a little bit late because actually this is the moment in which I will give you a little bit of break, but I don't know if you deserve it because you were late. Now I don't think I don't wanna. But in the meantime, I'm taking the time to copy paste the community standards in the chat. So, did you know, you can take the mic, these community standards? Do you know the rules of Meta about it? Never read it? None of you? Nobody does. I mean, I'm among the terms and conditions, but it's very long. I mean, I can share you the screen just to show what I was mentioning, because we will need it in a minute. Okay, just share the screen again. Anybody wants to share anything about what they know about community standards? Look at that. So this is what I was mentioning.
What I can say, Debora, is that I already checked that most of the students, if not all the students, have never read any kind of terms and condition on any kind of IT companies that they use.
But just, yeah, I mean, not the only them. I did this. I'm an activist, and you know, back then when I agree. Now, when they have, to be honest, when there are the updates in terms of conditions, I take sometimes read, but there are so many. To be honest, I also am the one. But spoiler, as an activist, there is an add-on made by a not-for-profit organization, like, you know, an independent, like. Terms and conditions I do not read. It's called like that. So you add it on your browser. I can send you the link. And basically it gives you a short summary of when a website is safe. It gives a classification from A to E, where E are the less safe, A are the safest. For instance, Signal or for instance, DuckDuckGo as a browser is much safer than Google. Facebook, Instagram, all the social media categorized as E. And also it gives you a summary of the major worrying things they have, okay? So even for lazy people like me, it's a very good tool if you're a person who's worried about their privacy, okay? I can put you the links, but this is a kind of off topic, sorry, but I think it's very useful. When they told me I found it useful, I found it sharing. But why I'm here, this is, for instance, I opened just the first bullet point, that violence and incitement. Look at how long it is. Do not post. It's very, very long, okay? And these, then they have all this disclaimer, also for hate speeches like that. For the following community standards, we require additional information and or content to enforce. They're saying, you know, these things we can do something, but be careful. If you report it, it may need more time. We need context. So the work of the so-called like checkers, it's longer, okay? But even without going into the yellow zone, in the red zone, so do not post. It's very long, okay? It's a very long list. they try to be very conservative on the things, okay? But why did I show you that? Okay, 10 sharp. Are you back? Open your camera if you are, or
Yes.
do a reaction, thumbs up.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good, good, good. So go back on your Menti if it is connected. The code is always the same, okay? And you can see it on the screen. It is 178465769. And you can see this is, you know, just out of clarity, I really took the screenshot from the website. It is their official declaration, but also because we don't have another equally official statement on what these policy changes are. It's not possible to find it. There are just news items on it or pieces of interviews made, okay? Also, it's important to specify that because it's a directory that was internal and given to people who work in the reporting system, let's say, but it wasn't really made public, only through, it was made public through kind of declaration, pieces of interview from internal sources, this kind of thing, okay? But this statement is official, and it kind of confirms this declaration that emerged, okay? So before I go into detail to show you with you, to share it with you, do you know what I'm talking about? Before I take time to explain it to you, maybe you already know it. Anybody? And the link from which is taken is here, huh? Yeah, you have a newsroom of Meta. I can share this with you as well. Anybody? Do you know?
Students, did you understand the answer? Would you like to have repeated the answer again?
Okay, so majority of people don't know it for now.
No. Maybe.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna share the link to the official Meta thing. But again, when you report something, also give your sources, okay? I could have fabricated the screenshot, I'm not so good. But never trust anybody, even though they're as nice as me and humble. Okay, so I think I take it that nobody knows it. But what is Nick Clegg's statement referring to? Around the beginning of March, end of February, actually, amidst the awful explosion of the war in Ukraine, or it's called Russian invasion of Ukraine, I mean, whatever you want to call it. We're not here to go into detail of the politics. We just know that what happened is Russia invaded Ukraine. So, and it's a war. But Facebook people, the people who got decision-making power, okay? So those people, it's a private company. That's what we have to remember about Meta and Facebook as part of Meta. On the kind of the feeling of the moment, they thought that was acceptable on the side of Ukrainian people in order to resist invasion to use certain forms of violent speech to talk about the Russian invasion. As you can see from the statement, this statement is it comes after this news was shared through newspapers. Okay, so it's I think it's written anyway. It's 11th of March or something like that. So it was after this decision was made, and it's kind of justifying. And because there was an attack, of course, to Meta, saying, how do you condone hate speech against Russian people? And this statement said, no, we never condone hate speech against Russian people. But we can understand the feeling of Ukrainian people towards the invasion. So anything that refers to that and happens only on Ukraine, to registered Ukrainian account, we have special conditions. And then there is all this kind of list of all the things they are doing to promote solidarity, to help, to all the crowdfunding, they help sponsor and things like that. Now, what's the problem? And this is something I'm telling you because I had a meeting with Meta representative for Italy and Greece, together with the National Network of Italy Against Hate Speech, Rete Nazionale per il Contrasto ai Discorsi e Fenomeni d'Odio, of which I'm part of with the No Hate Speech Movement Italy. So we had this face-to-face with this policy representative of Meta. So it's reliable information, okay? They said that the details of the edit was that a Ukrainian citizen that is residing in Ukraine is even allowed to post content on their social media account of Meta, sharing instructions of how to build bombs. Instructions, of course, on how to organize resistance. And also before, now I think they changed that was publicly allowed to wish for the death of Putin, which is a head of state in any case. All things that, as we see, so from the very, very long of things that are not allowed on Meta, it's never, ever allowed, okay? So it's a huge breach. And they said, you need to understand, and of course, this I cannot give you because it's something, that's why it's kind of a privilege, okay? It's something that we asked clearly to stay, but we cannot, I don't have like proof of that. You need to kind of trust me on that, but please do. Because we were very questioning about this thing. And they said, no, you need to understand that we did this to do something on the moment, to understand the feeling of Ukrainian people. Then we clearly asked, but does it mean that if a Ukrainian citizen registered in Ukraine posts something about how to produce a bomb and they have friends from outside Ukraine, are they gonna see that post as well? I mean, I'm a far-right extremist who is a friend of a friend who's in Ukraine and posts something, okay? I potentially have access to how to build a bomb, okay? Which normally is not allowed, okay? And they couldn't answer because, you know, there is this system, if a friend posts something and they have the open profile, is it visible also outside Ukraine? Yes, potentially it is. Also, there was proof that Meta allowed the advertisement of groups that, yes, are helping Ukrainian resistance, but also have kind of a very, very far-right positions that usually are not allowed, or else, anyway, a series of very worrying things that will stay also after the Ukrainian conflict finishes, and there's the potential to influence whoever comes across this content, okay? Now, I'm not gonna give you my opinion on that, because I wanna hear yours. I see a raised hand, but just to tell you, these are the facts, okay? And what they're telling is that these things is under revision. Also from the words of Nick Clegg, you can say that. This is something they did at the moment. Now they're dealing with technicalities of it, okay? So
Debora,
they're saying, yes?
Debora, excuse me, but I see that there is an hand raised by Julia.
Yeah, I said that. I'm just going to get in a minute. I said that. I saw Julia ends. Thank you. No, just saying that, just to clarify, that they said clearly that they did this decision on the spur of the moment, and now they're dealing with the practicalities, they're tuning it, some things they're adjusting, okay? So they had the power to, before taking the decision and giving this directive, now they're kind of dealing with the consequences and they're adjusting to what are these issues, okay? That, of course, have been raised. So just, this is the scenario. And now leaving the floor to Julia before giving you the task.
Okay, yes. Good morning. I was thinking that reading the last sentence of the screen that you've posted, I mean, don't you think that is a little problematic to have an online website that is so influential, obviously, on our social life and decides to basically just suspend the right for, in this case, Russian people to be respected and protected against hate speech just for the spur of the moment. I mean, not because I'm pro this war or anything, but I think that it could be troublesome if just the spur of the moment can justify a loss of rights.
Yeah, you really got the point, and this is what I want you to discuss about clearly. And thank you, Julia, for raising that, because this is, of course, a very major thing, because they had the power to do that, okay? They could do it. And that's why also Nick Clegg, in the statement I shared with you, it also says we have nothing against Russian people, okay? So everything that is really directly, we clarified that. If you say, I hate Russia, Russians should die, you cannot say, but if you say Russian invaders should die, you can say. So if you're referring to the invasion directly, you could do it. So it's like they are, they say they're against the act of invasion, not against Russian people. But as you, of course, understand, the line is very blurred. Because again, it's something that they say in words, but they didn't really think about practical and application and the possible kind of deviation that this could have, because they applied their sense of judgment and their views of things and they make of their social media, which is not, of course, the sole one. And this opened up a big Pandora box, but it's already then past 10. So my idea was, you're not so many, to be honest. So it's 10, but so it's like 6 students. Correct me if I'm wrong. How many students do we have? Okay, so basically we have
6 students.
We can divide you in 2 groups, okay? Group 1 and group 2, and you have this Jamboard with a question, okay? If you click on the chat, okay, they're exactly the same Jamboards. They're just divided for group 1 and group 2. The questions are the same, okay? You can see it and you should be able to edit. First of all, have you ever used Jamboards?
No, never.
No, I haven't.
Come on, where is digital literacy? 3rd year of pandemic, well, actually. No, but you know, Jamboard is very nice because you can work together at the same time, even if you're connected, okay? It's like you're sharing a flip chart or a piece of paper. I'm gonna share in the screen to show how it works. Okay, this is for group 2. Then I'm gonna divide you in breakout rooms. Okay, so this is the questions I'm posing you. Do you agree with meta decision? Collect your consideration in maximum 3 statements. Okay, very short, we don't have much time. Reflect on the issue of allowing banning contents. Which criteria should be applied to decide? Why? Okay, so this is like the guiding question you should have, and then ideally you should come up with the statements. To reply, what you can do, see here on the left side there are different buttons. Okay, the easiest one to use is this, not adhesive or sticky notes in English. You press on it and you write wherever, okay? Like Debora rocks. No, I didn't write my name correctly, okay? So it's automatically see it. So if you go and open it, it instantly shows on the Jamboard, okay? You can move it around. You can make it bigger, shorter, whatever, okay? And you can all write, all the people who have, I saw somebody already wrote something. You also have the eraser. You can do, see, okay? But the pen is a little bit more complicated to use. So I would use these, the sticky notes, okay? If you do something like this, you can eliminate it, okay? Do not eliminate things that other people wrote. Of course, it's not nice. Okay, but again, don't use the pen, the markers, because it's really messy. Okay, it's complicated, and you can go back with this on left. You can go delete or your mistakes, let's say. Okay, but only the one you make. You have no power on what others did unless you delete something by mistake. Okay, clear? Questions before I spread you? Clear?
I think, Debora, that maybe me and Ilaria would join.
I can put you in the room. Yeah, I can. Since it's two, I put 1 and 1. Okay.
Yeah, one. Just as an observer, then if we can help them, but we would like not to influence them.
No, of course. Okay. By default, me and Bernard, I think would not be put, but let's see. But the professor are in the same, so I'm okay. So in this way, comunicazione. Also, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So it's 4 per room. Perfect. Okay. You have 20 minutes from now. Okay. Then we're gonna sharing the result of your discussion. Okay, together.
Elephant, which are 2 posts together, but she will explain by herself meaning of her post.
Okay, no problem. So I would suggest we start from group 1 very shortly, couple of minutes. What are the main outcomes of your discussion? What do you want to share with us?
Julia, would you like to start? Because then the other post is linked to yours.
Yeah, also because we really don't have time so much.
Yes,
so
sure. So yeah, basically my answer was I don't totally agree this one, and is related to the fact that I think that it could be dangerous. And my colleague Anir just wrote I agree, but in regard of my answer. So she agrees with me, basically.
Yes, the problem is I just wanted to write that I agree with Julia and or Julia, sorry, and then like to say that since everyone can contribute to share unverified information, this can spread negative towards people.
Thank you, group 1. Because I think you lost Berenice, I think. And I won't let the professor speak for now. That will speak later. So thank you. I will go quickly to group 2. Group 2, what do you want to share? And of course, I'm sharing so everybody can read what you wrote.
I don't know, maybe I can talk. We had like a debate and some of us said that Meta should not, I mean, get involved into political issues, so like a war or things like that. So Meta should be more neutral in these situations. And on the other hand, I said that in my opinion, for example, Meta tried to find a balance between the two parts, wrong or right that it is. And I think that it's difficult to, distinguish between what's good and what's bad. So if someone is hurting anybody's feelings, like with discrimination or racism or things like that. And we also said that maybe the state, the government should get involved in these situations and I don't know, do something maybe.
Thank you very much for sharing group 1 and group 2. Now, before giving you some of the approach that we as activists of addressing speech and human rights activists have, and I hope that can be useful and give you kind of a compass, okay? And again, it's not like you should do like that, you shouldn't do like that. This is very complex situations, and always be dubious of people that give you easy answer to complex situations. I'm here just to offer one perspective applied on our practice and what we like to do and what we believe it's right to do based on some principles that I'm going to show you in a second. But before going there, thank you again for having a discussion. So I wanted to know from you, you can use the Menti. There was something about you didn't really feel like there was agreement in the group. There were some very relevant differences in opinion. You can use the Menti, you can use the mic. Do you felt like there wasn't really general agreement in the group? There were two sides and it was difficult to decide? Okay, one was meta should be neutral versus meta should ban hate speech. Okay, this is a thank you. Others? I think, yeah, this is kind of a major point.
Yeah.
No?
Maybe
Yes.
in our group, the point was Julia Einor, maybe that it should be more critical also, and to proceed case by case and to consider any option. Julia Einor, would you like to say something about this?
Oh, yes, I think that I found really interesting what my colleague Federica said in the previous slide about that meta maybe should not be involved in a war. And so, yes, that is can be linked to what we were saying in our group, that maybe we should be more critical on what this online platform can really do.
Thank you. And if you remember in the Jamboard, I asked something. Which criteria should we apply to decide? I mean, if you had to select for government, for platform, whatever, like if you want to decide what should or should not allowed, no, when freedom of expression should be restricted, what criteria would you use? What's legal, what's illegal, what's right or wrong? I mean, how would you phrase that if you had to? The good thing, like when we go out from here, you really don't have the power to do it, like if you take this decision, but you can apply to your everyday attitudes, no, in your interactions. That's true, you have the power to do that, but it's not your responsibility to decide on a larger scale. But if you had to, which criteria would you use? If you become CEO of Meta tomorrow. Different ideas when there is disinformation. Okay, others? You also can take the mic. Nobody wants to share anything, but when it incites violence or discriminations, okay. Good one. Okay, we really don't have much time. Yes, please go. Go.
No, I just wanted to say that maybe, generally speaking, the platform should be used according to a legal framework, like national or European legal framework. But inside the platform, it should be important to, obviously, it's an economic platform, so users must feel at ease. So I think that is important to create a safe space and cut every edges that can be created inside social, put in brackets, environment like this platform.
Thank you, Julia. In terms of safety is central, not also in the wording that this platform use. Okay, because how do you ensure that people are safe? Okay, this should be mandatory. But what are the parameters that ensure safety? It's allowing people to be violent against each other, take weapons, defend, respond to violence with violence. Are we sure about that? Yes, of course, in times of crisis, we may need to use violence to immediately interrupt violence, but should we accept the fact that we invite people to even start themselves violence? Well, for us, the answer is no. Because what's the problem with this meta decision, to say it very short because we don't have much time, is that it's saying that it's acceptable to respond to violence with violence, but only in certain occasions. Also because what is, for our critical thinking exercise, it's also good that you know that Meta, for instance, bans many Palestinian rebel groups when they try to organize, even though they don't suggest how to build bomb or things like that. But because they're seen as terrorists, or they're seen, well, they're basically defending themselves sometimes, okay? So when Meta decides it's right or wrong, or there is the case in Myanmar, it's very famous when there are a lot of controversy on the Meta attitude of deciding not to ban the action of certain groups, and then were proved to use Meta and Facebook, especially Facebook, to organize and go attack minorities in Myanmar. So, you know, when Meta decides it's their duty to intervene into global and war conflicts. So that's also another point. But what we care about as activists and practitioners, it's that we must always stress that freedom of expression is not freedom of oppression. If you allow people to use their freedom of expression to oppress others, to express things that promote violence, discrimination, in behalf of other people, we are not doing something that is going to stop violence, okay? So if we had to select one compass to make regulation, not just for online platforms, but for law, for national laws, okay, that are valid for citizens, that should be human rights, okay? Human rights should be our compass in ensuring safety of people, okay? Now, I also know that very lately with all the COVID pandemic, there is kind of a misusage of the concept of what human rights are. So why they're taking away my liberties, they're putting things, of course, there are, if you read the Declaration of Human Rights, there are conditions under which certain rights can be limited. And these states of emergency, but not just because the national state should decide so. But the state of emergency should be recognized as a state in which the majority of people's rights are in threat. This is the reason, for instance, that when you commit a crime, your freedom of movement, no, other freedoms are limited for the amount of time of your condemn, because you, by committing a crime, you violated other people's rights. So because you violated other people's rights, states, governments, law enforcement have the right to limit your rights because you were the one doing that. And the same principle is with COVID. If you are putting at risk the right to life to other people, you should limit your rights to prevent this to happen. So it's better to limit temporarily some rights that rip off people of their rights, okay? So it's the kind of also kind of in an economical way, no? It's better to limit something that lose it at all, okay? So if we all limit something, we're preventing that even one person lose their rights, because the principle of human rights are that they are universal, inalienable, indivisible, and interdependent. That is, doesn't exist the fact under any circumstances that to protect my rights, I have the right to take away yours, okay? Never. We can agree, that's why society exists, that's why constitutions, regulation exists, because we, as a form of agreement, we agree on the circumstances in which certain lines can be limited in the, because, you know, it in the end benefits our overall benefit of rights. And of course, no country in the world does that perfectly. We have a lot of issues, that's why there are human rights activists. As I always say, in an ideal world, I should work, I should exist. But if we do exist, it's because things are still wrong. But if we would follow exactly what are the principles written in the principle of human rights, all the major declaration, UN, Universal Declaration, also the European Charter, we would have a very, very great tool to ensure that we are doing right laws, okay? Unfortunately, doesn't happen still, but it's very important for me that we have clear this fact that we cannot ask people to respect our rights as a singular person, okay? So, because the point is that we live in a society, we are all interdependent, and as a thing that we say to activists to understand if something is very right or wrong, no, is basically my right to punch you stops when your face starts, okay? I think this kind of give a measure like of the how rights of people are connected with each other. And for instance, it's also very fundamental. Then I really leave the floor to Professor Ricci. The fact that we can never we have clear the difference between, for instance, freedom of opinion, which is absolute under any circumstances, and freedom of expression. Because freedom of opinion is something that belongs to me. Freedom of expression, it relies on interaction between me and the other person. So for this reason, I need to take into account the people that are included in the interactions and their rights before applying my freedom of expression, okay? It sounds difficult, but in general, it's not. And again, if you have these things, my freedom of punch you ends when your face starts, you will understand also on a practical level how to apply this principle, okay? So this is kind of my advice, my take out. I hope you benefited from this discussion. You can use the Menti slide to express how you're feeling. Oh, and I lost the slide with the name of Professor Ricci. Okay, anyway, it's the time for Professor Ricci to give us the closure. I'll leave the slide open for the feedback, okay? Thank you very much. And sorry, we're a little bit late, but you have 6 minutes more or less, Prof, sorry. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you, Debora, to Apice, to Professor Torino, to all the students. It was really, really interesting. I think that all the students also had something to say about this. We will talk about this because it is very important to discuss about hate speech and about also the freedom, our freedom. You say, Debora, use the right in the right way. This is really a good sentence because we have a lot of rights. We are actually always inside to our rights, but we have also to use in the correct way. You talk about the difference between just now the freedom of opinion and the freedom of expression. I think this is really the point to start, because we can have our opinion, but we cannot have our opinion to be expressed in a way that could also be pushing, as you say, others, or to create bad feelings, negative feelings, as Julia told in our discussion in our group. Of course, hate speech, we understood in these 2 hours that hate speech is something really complicated to tell, to explain, with all the many times that there is not really definition of hate speech, because it's something really hard to understand. It's something that is complex. It's something that concerns freedom of expression, individual, minority rights, collective rights, but it's something that concerns also the rights of dignity, liberty, equality. Okay, this is not defined hate speech, but it's something that we can understand starting by its function. When I have something that concern my freedom of expression, but that can refer to expression, advocate, incitement to harm, to discrimination, hostility, radicalization, to verbal, to physical violence, and which concern also social, demographic identities. This is something that can be considered hate speech. We understood that there are definitions, or there is something that has been tried to define, because it's important to contrast, it's important to fight hate speech. And we can also connect hate speech to some of the principles, for example, in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, after the World War II and the right to equality, the right as a response to what happened after the Second World War. So we can also define something that is in violation to rights, and we can also have a frame in which all the rights that are used not in the correct way can be put and can be discussed to be or not hate speech. How can we fight hate speech? You wrote, we are citizens of the world. This is, I think, one important thing. We are citizens. We are citizens of the world. And this is important to understand because we discuss about our freedom. We discuss about our identity. We discuss about inclusion and all these items can be also linked by the concept of citizenship. To be citizenship of the world is something that we, all of us, would imagine in the future if something is possible. But at this time, we can't consider that we are European citizens. And maybe when we consider really how to fight the hate speech, we can discuss about fighting hate speech by means of promoting tolerance, by means of promoting culture, inclusion, knowledge, democracy, cooperations, and all these are things that we can find in the European citizenship. We have not to think just to the rights that are linked to European citizenship, even though these are important. Just let's think about the democracy and electoral rights of the European citizenship. This is something that promotes inclusion, that promotes tolerance, that promotes also political inclusion of the citizenship of people. We discuss about also what is important to say from a political point of view, and which is also the target and the limits also in discussing what political can do or not, political rights. So this is something, of course, important. And when we talk about European citizenship, we discuss about the idea of creating a community of peoples and therefore of citizens, which has a common objective through the population, through people of all the members countries. And the objective in this case of European citizenship is really a factor that can contribute to a sense of belongingness, intended as intersubjective relationship among individuals who operate in a common space, which is a creation of internal or external system. So a space where all subject or people of different nationality can recognize mutually themselves as members, which shares common values of civilization as well as fundamental rights of citizenship. So when we talk about common values in Europe, in this case, among the European citizenship, but this is something that we can discuss also about common values of everywhere. Debora told about being citizenship of the world, common values that can be shared by everybody in every country, and sharing common values and having more integration in all our spaces, in all our dimensions in our life, of course, can be of help to create also cooperation, integration, and also to fight hate speech. Of course, in the European Union, the discussion and our European identity as European citizenship, is strong in this case, and really can contribute in a strong way also in this fight, because of the common value and the integration that also European citizen can bring in Europe. So we hope really that all these efforts in the way of integration can be really of help, also have more share also our common values in order to contribute to the really freedom of expression that is really rights without any bad thing, any negative thing in the way of hate speech.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Ricci. And, you know, really, I think it's a perfect closure. I just want to add in the chat, I'm sending you a website of a project of which we are partners with Apice. So where it goes very deep in how to contrast hate speech, promoting human rights values. So the things that also the professor mentioned, solidarity and tolerance and dialogue, the principle of inclusion. So we didn't have the time to do that together, but really on the website you can find a lot of resources and my beloved toolkit, which is a very, very good intro to this principle for people who don't know much about contrasting hate speech, but maybe a little. So I really don't have anything to add. I wish we could stay together longer, but I know you're a busy student, so you have another lesson. So just thank you. Thank you very much for anything, any feedback. The professors have our contact, my personal one, if you want to know more about it, or you know, your course to go deeper also in activism. I'm very much available in you know, changing your you know, life. I'm kidding, but you know, it was a pleasure, and you know, I will be waiting you for the second workshop. Don't forget we have another one. So I wish you a very good day. I don't know if Professor Torino also want to add anything else, but I've officially finished. So thank you very much.
Now, I would just like to say thank you to all of you that organized this very nice workshop. I hope that next time our students will attend more. And but I am anyway happy that 6 of them exploited and enjoyed the workshop. Thank you, Debora. Thank you to all Apice people.